You know what's funny? For the past 10 years, Git Worktrees has been a feature in Git, but most of us just walk by and never cared to understand how this feature worked. That's completely changing due to vibe coding today. And if you think about it, the way we used to work as developers meant that there is a task at hand, that task is assigned to you, you create a branch for that task, you work on that task. When you're done with that task, you create a pull request and the task is complete. Sometimes in the process of working on that task, you can get a request from your team that there's an emergency fix that is happening in production. So you start the changes in the branch, switch back to main, create a new hotfix branch, make those changes, make a pull request to production, do the hotfix, then come back and continue working on your feature. But vibe coding or agentic coding flipped that workflow on its head. Our role as developers has changed from a linear workflow of completing a task to us being orchestrators that control agents that complete those tasks, which means that instead of a linear workflow, we have a parallel one. But this presents a completely fresh problems. Here is a scenario I know you must have experienced. You set up Claude Code to work on feature A, you've designed that feature, you've architected it, you've planned it, and Claude Code has spin up, it's working on this feature. Now you're idle, you're bored, you want to work on something else. You go ahead and start a new Claude Code instance for feature B. Then feature B is going on, feature C, feature D, and so on. What's happening at this point in time is that all of these Claude Code instances are fighting to edit the same files, and then they end up stepping on each other's toes and messing things up completely. Now, here's my own personal experience. I had Claude Code working on feature A. It completed feature A and then tried to start the server and realized that there were type issues that was preventing it from starting the server. So it went on and started trying to fix those type issues, which is fine. But then another Claude Code instance was working on feature B, finished feature B, tried to start that server again and realized that there were type issues that it didn't introduce. And then it went and started trying to fix the issue that Claude Code feature A introduced, and then they end up mixing things up and stepping on each other's toes. And this is the perfect situation where I would have wanted to have these two agents work on two different folders completely different from each other. And then when they are done, I can try to reconcile all of these changes into a single work stream. Now, this is exactly the problems that Worktrees solve. Now, Worktrees might not have been popular since its inception, but with our new workflows today, it's become something that you absolutely becomes one of those features, one of those things that you absolutely have to understand and take full advantage of. And to prove how important this feature is, Cursor has this built-in, Claude Code Desktop has this built-in, and just recently, GPT Codex Desktop app also has Worktrees built-in. But none of this, or Worktrees has nothing to do with agentic coding. It's just the fact that we've realized how important this feature is and how it makes parallel workflows easier. And that's why all of these big labs are integrating them in their products. Now, I'm going to expose you to all the fundamentals of Worktrees and how they work. So no matter where you encounter them, you can always and properly take advantage of them. That said, let's jump in and see how Worktrees work. Then before the end of the video, I'm going to show you my workflow and how I take full advantage of Worktrees. Now, to help you understand Worktrees properly, I'm going to use two concepts that aren't new to you, but just bear with me for the sake of this video. Projects and repositories. Projects, I just want you to think about it as a folder that has some kind of content. It could be some code files, some images, some videos, doesn't matter. But then a repository is a project that has a .git folder in its root. Now, how you make a worktree is take that repository, that project that has a .git folder, we're just going to call it the source. And then we'll make a copy of that source, and we're going to call that copy a copy. Now, that copy, what we're going to do after we've made that copy is remove the .git folder in the copy and make the copy point to the .git folder in the source. Now we have a worktree. We have two worktrees. The main worktree, which is the one that has the .git folder in it, and a linked worktree, which is the copy. We can carry on making more copies, more linked worktrees, as long as they are that as long as they don't have a .git folder and they point to the .git folder, I keep saying .git, which is funny, but as long as they point to the .git folder of the source, then those are worktrees. Those are linked worktrees, and you can keep making these copies infinitely. But the interesting thing is you have a completely isolated copy of your code base that you can make changes to and still reconcile them with Git back to the main worktree. All right, the first thing I need to do is run pwd on this directory. This is just going to print the folder we're working from. And the reason why I'm doing this is that we're going to end up creating new folders using worktrees. And it's important for us to know that this is the main one, and the new ones we create are going to be the linked worktrees. Then I can just run git status to check that we'll have a clean environment, and then git branch to see the list of branches we're working with. In this case, it's just main, which is where we want to be. Now, to create a worktree, all we have to do is run git worktree add, then the folder we want to create this worktree, which is as a sibling of the current directory, and then finally a branch name. And the reason why we're creating a branch as well when we create this worktree is because you cannot make changes to the same branch onto different worktrees. Git doesn't allow you to do this because it protects you from having conflicting changes happening in the same branch on 2 or more different worktrees. That said, I can hit enter and we immediately get a worktree. We can confirm this by listing the files just above this current directory. And you can see that we have a chat.main folder and then the folder that we just created, which is the worktree. We can also go ahead and create just one more worktree so that we can actually start taking advantage of a parallel workflow. I'm going to call this one feature prompt templates. And then again, if I run the ls command, we have both of these worktrees available for us to cd into. We have both of these worktrees which we can jump into and start making changes to. Another way we can verify what we've just done is to run git worktree list. This is going to show us all the worktrees that are available in this project. Of course, we have the main one, which points to this current directory. Then we have the feature/copy message one, which points to this chat feature directory. And then the feature/prompt templates one, which also points to the chat feature templates directory. And you can see that all of these are currently pointing to the same commit. All right, now we've gotten all the plumbing out of the way. Let's now jump in and actually take advantage of a parallel workflow by using both of these worktrees. What we can do is start with clearing all of this. Now, to get us started, I'm going to cd into the copy feature folder and then run Claude. Now, once we have an instance of Claude running here, I'm going to split this terminal and then cd into the templates feature folder and run another Claude command here, which will start another instance of Claude. Now, for the first instance, I'm going to ask Claude to add a copy button to each of the assistant messages. So if you go to the chat interface that we have here, we have the user message and then we have the assistant message. And I want to be able to copy these messages by just clicking a button. I can also ask Claude to use the front-end design skill for this as well. And then for the second instance, I'm going to ask Claude to create a few prompt templates. So whenever you start a new conversation, it doesn't start with an empty screen. I can also take advantage of the front-end skill as well. Now, both of these features are completed, and we can attempt to run it by running pnpm dev. Now, what we can do is run pnpm dev to check out what Claude has done. But when I do this, I'm going to get an error. And what the error is just trying to tell us here is that we're missing our node modules folder. And there's a good reason for this. When you create a worktree, you're basically creating a project folder using Git. We didn't actually run a copy command. Instead, we asked Git to make a copy of this project and link them together. But what that means is that if we are relying on Git to make that copy, Git is only going to copy what it's tracking. It's not going to copy the node modules folder, and it's not going to copy the .env file because both of those files aren't being tracked by Git. This is a common limitation with worktrees, and there's a workflow for this. What you do is just create a script that copies the .env file into the new worktree folder, as well as run the install command. As a matter of fact, I already have the script here, which basically copies all of our .env files and then finally runs pnpm install to install the dependencies. Now in the terminal, you can see that I'm back in the copy feature directory or worktree, and I can run pnpm dev, jump back to the browser, and you can see that we don't have any prompt templates for this new conversation yet. That's because we aren't actually looking at the work tree that worked on the template. We're looking at the work tree that worked on the copy feature, which means if I open an existing chat and hover over it, I can copy the chat and I can paste it anywhere. Now, to verify that the template feature works as well, I'm going to stop the server for the copy feature, go to the template directory and run pnpm dev here as well. Now, back in the browser, you can see that I can no longer copy this feature. There's no copy icon when I hover on this particular chat or this particular assistant message. But when I click on new chat, you can see that I have the 4 templates that are specified when I asked Claude Code to implement this. So I can just click any of this and then click send and wait for the agent to write a poem about Git workflows. Brilliant. Now I'm happy with these changes. So I'm going to ask Claude Code to commit the changes on both Worktrees. I'm going to accept the commit command or the add command, and then I can go ahead and close these terminals, then stop Claude Code for this one, cd back into the main Worktree. Now, back in the main Worktree, what I'm going to do is run a git log command, which is going to show us all of the changes that we've made in both Worktrees. And that includes adding the clipboard button for assistant messages and adding a prompt template card to empty chat state, which are both happening to these branches, which both live in 2 different directories, in 2 different folders. And that is the power of Worktrees. What we need to do is figure out how to pull all of this back into this main project, because right now, if I run pnpm dev on this particular folder, on this particular project, none of the changes we've made are going to appear here. Now, luckily, it's actually simple. All we have to do is treat those work trees as if they were just branches and run git merge. When I do that, I'm going to merge the changes we have in the copy branch and in the copy work tree back into the main work tree. And I can also do the same thing for what we have on the prompt template worktree. Now, when I start this project one more time, you can see that we have all of our chat templates still working. And when I click on each of these conversations, we can see that we have the copy button to copy this particular assistant message. And this is just beautiful. We've just used Worktrees to create 2 parallel workflows, completed the tasks on those parallel workflows, and pull them back into our main work stream. Now, what we're going to do now is clean up all of these work trees that we've created since we've completed the tasks. And then before I let you go, I'm going to show you a workflow that helps me automate most of this so I don't have to run this script or run this command or remember to run them every single time. To remove the copy feature worktree, all you have to do is run git worktree remove and then the directory where the worktree lives. When you hit enter, this is going to remove that worktree. And we can also do exactly the same thing for the feature templates directory. And once we've deleted these directories or these worktrees, we then need to clean up those branches because we don't need them anymore. Now, when we run git worktree list one more time, we're going to see that we just have a single worktree, which is the main worktree. And when we check the siblings of this folder, you can see that we don't have any of those worktrees anymore. We've deleted them. Awesome. Now, that brings us to the end of what worktrees are and how to use them. But before you go, I want to show you a workflow that I've been using, I've been experimenting with, and you might want to try out because it's going to automate most of these things that we've done in this video for you. And that's basically using a script to automatically always start workflows and clean them up when I'm done with a Claude session. So what I have here is I created a Claude pnpm or Claude npm script command, which runs a ZX script, which lives inside my scripts folder called Claude Worktrees. Now, what the script does is, instead of using the Claude command directly, when you run pnpm Claude, we'll first of all create a workflow, or the script first of all creates a worktree rather, not a workflow. Then it starts Claude after creating a worktree. It's going to create a worktree, assign a name to it, copy all the things that we need to copy, including the .env files, and then run a pnpm install. Then when it finishes, it then runs Claude. And what this allows us to do is always start Claude in a worktree. And then after our changes, we have a Claude hook, which runs after the session ends. And this is going to call the worktree cleanup. And this is going to basically do the opposite of what we did when we started Claude. And what this cleanup script does is that it creates a branch in the main work tree and applies all the changes we have in the linked work trees back into the main work tree, and then you can come in and review that branch and then merge it however you want to merge it. So this is very experimental. Give it a try. To be honest, most of this code were generated by Claude Code, so feel free to do something similar. Or if you want to have access to the repository, I might leave this somewhere on GitHub so you can check it out and see if this workflow works for you. Now, that said, I hope you found this video helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.